All right, y'all, what's going on? This is your girl Tanisha Peoples with my homeboys Jason B. Allen and Mr. Nehemiah Frank, and we are Talk That Real Shit. I'm gonna emphasize talk that real shit because I heard that there was some people hating on the name of our show, and we really don't give a damn. So we are Talk That Real Shit, and we talk that real shit every Monday. Sometimes we, talk it at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock Central. Sometimes we talk it at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock Eastern, which is what we're doing now. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in as always. And we of course want to kick the show off to give a moment of silence for the loss of a giant on the Supreme Court, the notorious RBG. All right, y'all. I'm not. We usually talk about current events first, and obviously that's a big one.
Yeah.
Because we lost a giant in an age where we can't afford to take any more hits politically, and so now we are in danger of the Republicans trying to hurry up and throw somebody else. And Ruth C, she ain't even in the ground, she ain't cold yet, and they just thirsty. And I was scared because it's like, every couple of months RBG, she had some issues, and I'm like, Lord, just keep her, just keep her. And they took her.
Yeah.
They took her, and so it's sad and it's scary, but what do y'all think is gonna happen with this nomination? Like, do y'all think it's gonna come through or what?
The Republicans have total control of the Senate. They have more than enough votes to push somebody through. Honestly, I'm not even mad at them. I'm not even mad. I know back in the day they said not to push a candidate through just before an election. But I mean, the rules are the rules. They're set in stone, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Us Democrats, we could hoop and holler and stump on the ground and do an ugly cry all we want to. They are well within their right and well within their power to push through whoever they want to push through. Unfortunately.
My thoughts are, we are in not the best situation in either way. It's not as if the Democrats have done so much for Black Americans. So, that's my thought there. We hear the analogy that they are two wings on the same bird. It's the greater of the lesser evil. Joe is the better option than Trump, and we continue to put ourselves, in this situation because we're limited. At this point, it's like we're the technology age. It's 2020, and we're still making these same basic ass decisions like it's 1920. And I don't know what else to say. Like, I don't know what it's going to take to get people to really say it's time for change. When I think of her role and what she did on the Supreme Court, that's a heavy weight to carry in your last days, thinking that, oh my God, I need to hold on, as long as I can. A lot of people do that for their children, or for their families, but to carry the weight of, people who really deserve true freedom and equity in this country, and you're carrying that on your back, like, I have to be here because I know that they're going to try to destroy democracy. That's a lot for anybody to carry. So, I'm wishing her well in her next journey. And then my last point would be this, guys, that I think that it's okay to disagree with people. I don't agree with every decision that she made. I don't agree with her comments about Black Lives Matter and kneeling, at the football game.
Wait, what'd she say about that?
She said it was disrespectful and it was a waste of time.
Okay.
But that was in 2016.
Right.
So, people can evolve and change, but I would never take anything away from her life because I don't agree with everything that she does. And so I'm hoping that lands on someone's ears as we're deciding who is going to lead this country next, that we can make decisions that are better for the whole instead of just a small group of citizens.
Yeah. Aireane, I want to let y'all, Aireane and Anthony, get involved in this conversation. I know that we haven't formally introduced y'all yet. I promise we were raised with good manners, but sometimes we just jump into this. But we'll introduce y'all after y'all have commentary about RBG, if y'all have commentary.
Oh, absolutely. So I am a political science teacher, and this was a big discussion today. I'm feeling very conflicted in a sense. We have 5 conservative justices, and now we only have 3 liberal ones. But even speaking to what what she did say to Black Lives Matter, it just shows that regardless of where you sit on that spectrum, whether liberal or conservative, we are still not as a people being respected, even in the highest court of the land. And so I have a question about life tenure. I do think that the Supreme Court justices do need to be, I guess, excluded from popular decision, but what does that look like for the minorities? All right. Are we really actually getting justice the way that we deserve? Are we really getting these laws passed the way that we deserve? And what does constitutionality really look like, especially when the Constitution was never written for me or for you?
Right. That's good.
Say that.
Yeah.
And you can't be on fire.
Both of us being political science majors, we can talk y'all's head off about this topic here. What we're talking about though is heavy, because we're talking about the future of our country for the next generation and a half. And you're absolutely right. They're well within their rights. And if Democrats were in control of the Senate and the White House, we would do the exact same thing. Y'all know it.
We'll be pushing.
But it does come down to whether we're going to let an impeached president who did not win the popular vote choose a 3rd Supreme Court justice right in the middle of a presidential election, less than or a little bit more than 40 days out from the biggest election of our generation, of our lifetime. I know we keep saying that, but that's how big it is, because it comes down to abortion rights, number one, comes down to housing rights, comes down to education rights. Think about all the things that RBG fought for. And so just like the Republicans are playing dirty and fighting, we have to do the same. It's going to be very close, very close. We saw that Senate Majority Leader McConnell did lock down the votes, but it's not over yet. It's not over until the fat lady sings. So we're very close. And if we can get just 1 or 2 Republicans knocked off, hey, we can get this Arizona seat and get this Democrat in this Arizona seat. He can be sworn in by November 30th in time for a vote. So it's going to be very, very tight, very, very close. And everyone needs to be paying attention and logging in. And then we need to vote. And then we need to vote. This is a consequence. When most of your citizens in a democracy don't vote, this is what happens.
Yeah.
Do y'all know who we need? Olivia Pope.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say
Yeah.
Jesus. I thought you were going to say Jesus.
I was about to say, well, no, but we do. We need Olivia for real, most definitely.
Yeah. All right, I'm sorry. So you know what? Let us act like we got some home training to introduce our guest today. Jason, you want to go ahead and introduce your fellow ATL homies?
Okay, well, I can, guys, and this is the teacher in me. I want to make sure I pronounce everybody's name correct. But as they stated, they're teachers, and we definitely wanted to uplift the voices of teachers on this show, as of course we're in the midst of back to school. So our special guests for today are Aireane Montgomery. Did I get you right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. And Anthony Downer. They are the co-founders of what I have bragged about to as many people as I have talked to. They have one of the largest organizations in Georgia that is comprised of teachers, whether they are currently in the classroom, they are, leaving the profession and they're retiring, or just leaving because of the pandemic, or in the situation like myself where they were pushed out because they wouldn't keep their mouth closed about the injustices that are happening in our public school districts. So, welcome guys to the show. We're glad to have you on Talk That Real Shit today.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. And thank you guys for the work that you do, especially during a time like this.
Yeah. And shout out to all teachers, social workers, bus drivers, cafeteria workers who were working really the entire summer doing food programs for kids, and the nurses and principals, APs, all the staff members, educators that are doing this hard work during this time. We definitely want to commend you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know we have questions, but I just want y'all to talk about y'all experience right now and, leaving this kind of traditional setting in the schools to having to be educators in the age of COVID-19. Like, how is that looking for y'all, and what injustices are y'all seeing as educators?
Where do we begin, right, Aireane? Well, this is Aireane and I are entering our 3rd year teaching, and we're both products of the system. So We had, these experiences that were okay, right? We experienced some injustices as Black students, and then we came back and wanted to give back. And so I grew up in the southern part of the district, very poor, very low income, very multicultural, and now teach in the northern part of the district, very homogenous. It's changing rapidly, but due to gerrymandering and redistricting, I'm still experiencing the same issues we saw when I was in high school. And number one, it is interesting to see the school district adopt this verbiage of equity and justice, right? Because some of us live it, some of us wear it at all as a lifestyle, and what we're seeing is there's a little bit of a perversion, because and really a hypocrisy, because even when we're talking about digital learning, we are the largest school district in the state of Georgia, the richest school district in the state of Georgia, the longest serving a superintendent, one of them in the history of the United States, and we can't even get something like a 101 model. But we pay our superintendent more than the president of the United States, and we to provide devices to those kids that need it. So it's a weird space because there's a lot of hypocrisy. There's a lot of rebuilding. And both of us are abolitionist teaching, so we believe in burning down and tearing down every single part of the educational system that is marginalizing and violent to our Black and brown students. But it's also about rebuilding. So we always say that we're at the crux, we're at the crossroads, where a new baby is going to be delivered in January, and who's going to care for this baby? We're fighting some deep forces. We're fighting for the soul of our county. And so it's exhausting work, but it's very much necessary. And for us as third-year educators to stand up and fight this fight has been something special.
Yeah.
That's good.
Aireane, how about you? How's your experience been?
This has been such a trying time, to be honest. At the end of the day, students come first, and they're my first priority, as well as I love them so much. I see myself in those students every day. I came from the northern side of the county, but I was a Title I student. My mom worked as a parapro and still is a parapro in Gwinnett County Public Schools. Has been there for 20 years. And so my experience has been a little bit different. I was the only Black student in class. I was an AP scholar, but at the end of the day, I didn't have the resources that these privileged students did. And therefore, I experienced that throughout high school as well as college. And so being back in the classroom now, I'm in a Title I school, and I was a Title I student. It's been very emotional. I will say that. Even thinking about, like you said, I'm at a school where students are working off their cell phones and have been working off their cell phones for a long time, trying to get their schoolwork done, not having adequate hotspots, and being told by really almost gaslighted by the district in the sense of being told that we have the adequate resources that we do not have. We have teachers that are afraid for their jobs. We have admin that are afraid for their jobs. Anytime an admin will speak out for equity and justice, they're getting called into HR about something.
Wow.
Right? It's a matter of time. Sometimes I think about myself and when is it going to be too little, too late for me? So I do the best that I can. We do the best that we can, teaching our students in person as well as online simultaneously has been very, very difficult. Even maintaining a work-life balance, there's none. I'm working 24/7 now.
Yeah.
If it's not answering an email, I'm getting emails on Saturday at 8:00 in the morning, about Ms. Montgomery, I haven't been able to be in class. I don't have adequate Wi-Fi. What should I do? This link is not working. And if I jumped up every 5 seconds when my students will call out or cry out to me, which I want to, I wouldn't have any life of my own at all.
Yeah.
And that's not fair. Regardless of how we love this career, how much blood, sweat, and tears we put into it, I can't be an adequate teacher if I'm not whole. And that's what we're experiencing at this moment.
I really like the fact that you said you see yourself in those kids. Because every day I walked into the classroom, that's what I saw. I saw myself in each and every one of those kids. It didn't matter if it was a girl or a boy. I just saw Black America, and man, y'all are some dangerous individuals. And I mean that in the most positive way. Like, we need more revolutionary minded Black educators to walk in those classrooms and empower those kids. And then, I want to say one more thing too that just really like blew my mind. The fact that children are working on
cell phones,
did you say, is ridiculous. I mean, the screen is still really small. I mean, I'm tripping over like having two computers, wondering if the screen is big enough for me to do my work. And the work that they do is critical to their development as citizens in this country. It's unfortunate.
I just wanted to interject right quick because I know that we have a variety of people watching, especially parents. And we have done some call to actions in regards to internet access for all and making sure there's equity. So I actually shared an article that our sister Tanisha wrote. It's on the Atlanta page. So you can go there as a resource. And I'm just going to be dropping nuggets of resources, nuggets of resources throughout the show. So as we're talking about some of these heavy things and the reality of reopening schools during the pandemic, we want people to also be able to take action. So shout out to those teachers that were pushing me on making sure we were actually, making change, right?
Right.
So I wanted to one of the things you said, Aireane, is like you said that you have no free time, right? There's no balance. And what's messed up about that, what I heard is just like, damn, like either the work is gonna kill you or the system is gonna kill you, in a country that's already killing Black people. And so another thing, Anthony, you said that, I can't remember who said, I'm sorry, but basically educators are facing retaliation if they, step out and voice it. So how can y'all fight that? Like, how can we support y'all in fighting that? Because this is a time like where as a community, even though there's so much pinned against us, we have the opportunity to advocate for so much.
That's right.
And
That's right.
it's Uranus is in retrograde. I like to say, I call retrograde micro braids is messy. So Uranus is in micro braids. And what that means is there's a lot of rebellion. And so that's why we're seeing a lot of uprisings. And so how can we mobilize, and how can y'all mobilize more teachers to speak out against racial injustices in school? And how can we support y'all do that so y'all won't feel this burnout and feel this intimidation from the districts you work in?
First thing first, we need a union. We need an organization that legally protects us at all in all aspects. We don't have that in Georgia. We have a union, but it's crippled because collective bargaining is illegal, right? And that's the biggest power for unions. And that's been the barrier in building this movement, is that you have teachers so uninformed, so brainwashed by this county. You might know if you're in Georgia as a teacher, there's teaching, and then there's teaching in Gwinnett. And they've brainwashed these teachers so bad that you have teachers believing, oh, I'm not allowed to protest. I'm not allowed to speak at a board meeting. I'm not allowed to sit in front of the ISC and honk my horn in my car. And those were effective strategies, but we had a large swath of teachers tune out or spread misinformation based off of fear. That's been a barrier, and I think how we're getting through that is just education, is bringing together or bringing to the table the NEA, the GAE, even Page as applicable, to let them know, okay, what are our rights as educators? Because there's a misinformation campaign, and lots of folks, whether it be teachers, parapros, subs, all the way up to principals and assistant principals, do not know their collective power. But you're right, the role of the parent is paramount. And so what we did this past Thursday's board meeting, we were very successful in turning out some parents, Black parents, working class parents, who talked to the struggles of digital learning, the safety issues around face-to-face learning. And they were countering, what was great is they were countering the white parents in the county, because if you've been plugged in, we've had white parents speak on behalf of all parents. 20% of our student population is white. That means a small minority of our parents have been able to push school policy when it comes to this reopening phase. And the biggest failure, and this is because I know folks want us to be solution oriented, the biggest failure on behalf of the county is that in this reopening plan, they didn't do what Fulton County or other counties did. They brought no communities to the table. They didn't consult teachers. They didn't consult principals. They didn't consult communities. They didn't use their time over the summer to prepare for digital learning. Ergo, much of the inequities that parents are concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. That's where the root of the issue is. When you don't have community engagement, these are the issues that pop up.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I just real quick, if we got any parents and educators watching, I really want y'all to sound off in the comments, because we need to hear from y'all. Because again, this is a conversation that builds community and strategy amongst us, so we can push back against the things that's frustrating y'all. So sound off in the comments. Let us know how you feel.
And
Go ahead,
also
Ariane.
to add to that, Tanisha, parents are a pivotal part of the conversation, because parents have the power to make change. I always, when I led family engagement for Atlanta Public Schools, we always challenged Gwinnett, because as the largest, most diverse district, they truly weren't investing in family engagement.
Mhm.
And this was almost now 10 years ago. And so, I tell parents when I'm engaging with them is that we have an obligation that parents will protect our teachers and our students, because parents can go before the school board. They get this information and building relationships with their teachers, working with their kids, and really exposing the things that are happening. And some of the parents in Gwinnett are actually doing that, and running for school board. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But parents do have the power to make the changes with teachers, and activists like us to get these things done.
And parents can bring their kids. I mean, what we saw on
Yes.
Thursday is this new group called Gwinnett Students for Equity, very similar to our own name, no comment. And that was all around students, and they brought their parents, and so that parent permission of students standing up and speaking out is so crucial.
That's good. Shout out to them.
Yeah. Shout out to that shade you just threw too. I thought that was good.
Yeah.
Aaron, did you have a comment about how we can mobilize teachers? This is a we effort, not a y'all or our or me. How can we mobilize teachers to push back against these injustices and this racism and the intimidation that you're facing in the school districts you work in?
Absolutely. Collaboration is key. We're trying to find a lot of like-minded organizations to partner with, to come up with these solutions on how we can actually tangibly create an equity plan that will actually cover all of Georgia. Right now, we're pushing for certain classes, Black Studies courses, because you need the students to actually see themselves within the classroom. And so we know that this is not a Gwinnett fight anymore, that this is going to be more of a state fight. And so we're looking to collaborate with some of those different counties that are actually putting in this work to get this Black Studies course passed. I will say that we have made some groundwork. We've gotten a couple successes in the sense that we're curating now an ethnic studies course for Gwinnett County Public Schools, as well as a critical literacy course at this moment. But we know that it's very, very important that we get this Black Studies course passed. All right, it's time to stop just looking at this from a Eurocentric standpoint. And it's time to actually look at these different cultures and really praise them throughout the diaspora. So that is one of the biggest pushes that we are working on at this moment. We are also looking for other counties that have viably went out and done this implicit bias training. We're still trying to get this done at a county level because it is very, very important. We still have teachers that are kicking Black students out of classes for having Black Lives Matter shirts on, posters in the background. And so clearly there is a racial divide, and clearly our county is not doing anything about it. And so now it's time for us to take that on into our own hands and I guess pull rank in the sense of trying to figure out how we can really go around Gwinnett County to get stuff done in Gwinnett County. And unfortunately, we have to do that. We have been trying to collaborate with them since the beginning of June, and we have yet to see any tangible, plans implemented for this implicit bias training. So we are absolutely looking for those like-minded organizations to be able to help us in our really plight at this moment.
Yeah.
Can I pop in real fast? Because my head just went spinning around fast. So you're saying that kids are getting kicked out of the virtual classrooms Because they have Black Lives Matter.
What they telling them to cut their screen off? I don't.
No,
How the hell do you get sent to the principal's office?
There was an incident. It was one incident with I cannot remember her name, but she's a middle school teacher, and she had a Black Lives Matter poster that the school district asked her to take down. Eventually, they backed down from that, and then in solidarity with that teacher, some of her students logged in. I think it was about 2 or 3 students logged in with BLM, and they were removed from class. And we spoke at the board meeting about that, you know. But if I can underscore what Aireane is saying, she's saying something very powerful when it comes to parents. The successes that we've seen as a group, of course, those are because we're pushing, but we also successfully engaged and activated parents who then went to their principals and said, "Hey, listen, I have a Black kid that has been traumatized by the events of the past few months. How are you training your mostly white teachers to care and be sensitive to my Black student? My student is transitioning genders. What training and support are your students or your teachers gaining to deal with this transition?" When a parent asks that question, that's powerful and effective. And that's the centerpiece of the strategy, is that parents will push for these things. But guess what? We got some schools without PTAs. So a lot of parents don't know where to plug in or how to plug in because of the lack of institutional memory around these issues.
But here's like, so my petty mind is tripping on the fact that they actually kicking kids out of virtual classroom. Like, again, what is like, put your thumb over the camera, like you in timeout, or go to the principal's office. We gonna send you a Zoom for when you're supposed to come in. Like, what kind of stupid shit is that? You know, but I'm on the flip side and on the serious side, it's an examination of how the school to prison pipeline persists through virtual learning. Because you're kicking kids out of classrooms, out of virtual classrooms, cut your laptop off, take a time out when they're already like suffering in the learning processes and education process during COVID-19, and now you're kicking them out for making a statement. And ultimately, that stuff is going to add up. The fact that you got kicked out of a classroom, or maybe your internet was down. I saw a story about somebody posted on Facebook that their internet went out and the school charged them with an unexcused absence. And so when you think about like truancy and school to prison pipeline, like these are things that are going to affect our kids, continue to affect our communities doing virtual learning. And so we got to push back against that. So it's like, as much as it's a joke about how y'all disciplining people doing distance learning, telling them to cut their camera off, it's like still that everlasting presence of criminalizing our kids.
I mean, it's the institution that's telling them, right? Kids that look like us, that we don't care about Black lives. We don't care about, your academic outcome, because we're kicking you out of class because you decided to have a Black Lives Matter, sign on your back as your background. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous to me that is actually something that is going on. And honestly, I think it's a great place for parents to launch their full out assault on the system itself, the system of education in this state, that they don't give a damn about Black kids, because y'all kicking Black kids out of classrooms because they have a cultural symbol of modern day civil rights on their screen. That's ridiculous. And then you're allowing kids to go through school. School is hard as hell enough, right, when you're a kid. But if you're a Black kid, you're probably already a few steps behind, so it's extra hard. And then you want them to do their damn homework and schoolwork on a cell phone. It's ridiculous. Absolutely. Yeah. The parents should be overthrowing the whole system. That makes me up.
So just to interject right quick, because of course I'm taking notes, because this is a lot of good information to make sure we follow with our listeners and also supporters. So if there are any parents in Gwinnett, to go to a point that Anthony made, that does not have an active PTA or parent advocacy group, Gwinnett Stop is a long-time advocacy group. As long as I've been advocating in the work, I've been connected with them. Marlene Tillman and her team, they're awesome, and they definitely will make sure that those issues are presented. So I wanted to put that out there. The Baldwin in me is going back to articles that I've read from him about these issues regarding systemic oppression in public schools. I recently wrote about the need for school districts, and I actually sent it to school board leaders, the need for them to look at revising discipline policies in public schools, and not just the discipline policies, but also attendance, because the data shows us in the school to prison pipeline. You can go to Atlanta, you can go to Gwinnett Stop site. It shows us that this data comes from how they track Black and brown children. And so this is not just about educate, because we are in the know of this, but I want to make sure that parents are hearing this. Like, your child is already being targeted. I want teachers who may think that they're woke, but they're not, to understand that, yeah, you're following the process, but in that process of writing up a child because they got on your nerves, or your husband didn't cook dinner and now you got a bad attitude, so you're just going to take it out on writing it up for a child, that it impacts them, right? This follows them. So go to those websites for those resources, and I'll chime back in with another public service announcement in a little bit.
So I know we got to move on. I'm still kind of like, I'm thinking, so once schools, kids physically go into school buildings, right? And they have a damn Black Lives Matter shirt on. What they gonna do? Kick the kid out of the classroom for having a Black Lives Matter shirt on?
Probably.
Like, Jesus.
Yeah.
It really depends.
And these white kids be coming in the classrooms with Confederate flags and all kind of shit on. That's a shame.
We had an assistant principal at my school up until a year ago. I think before I got there, I heard that he had a Confederate flag on his truck. He would drive in and nobody was saying anything until somebody got offended about it. So this is normal. It's part of their culture. I also have an assistant principal that will remain nameless. She was teaching at my high school, and she taught my brother, and she read a book called The Little Black Sambo in class. And so when the Black parents complained.
How long ago was this?
I'm glad she's bringing this up, though.
2009. My brother graduated in 2013. So probably like 2012 when he had this teacher.
Obama was president when this happened?
Yeah. So she said that she didn't understand why it was racist that she had grew up with this book. So this is the type of county we have. And let's not forget, my junior year, the senior year prank was them spray painting nigger all over the walls. So this is the type of county that we are in.
You're in.
Ooh,
I'm glad that she brought that up.
I'm so happy I'm here.
I want them to elaborate on the most recent racial incidents that have happened in Gwinnett. I know there was a comment made about the only Black school board member by the long-standing white school board members during the meeting. There was an issue at one of the high schools this year with the yearbook. Last year, it was an incident with an MLK article. They had a picture in there with the student doing something derogatory and using the N-word. So can you guys, because these are most recent things. Can you guys touch on that?
Can I ask a question? Because I just want to interject. I want to push back a little bit, if y'all don't mind with that, because I don't remember where, y'all. My mind is bad, but somebody said over the weekend, like, why do we focus on the racist shit that white people do when we know that they do it? And so it's like, I don't know if it's like when we think that they can't do some absurd shit, they top the most absurd shit. So it's like, why are we focusing on the absurd shit that they do, the ridiculous shit that they do, and not solutions to fight the shit? Or if it's not going to be solutions to fight the shit, the solutions to build internally so we won't have to deal with the shit. And so it's like, we hear all these stories about, these suspension rates and, Black boys being criminalized, like Josh brought up, the young boy that was suspended for having a toy gun in a virtual classroom. What are we gonna do? Like, we know this shit is happening. What are we gonna do? That's all I want to hear. And that's my only pushback. Feel free to tell the stories all day, but I'm tired of talking about white people and they shit. We need to talk about Black people and how we gonna build. That's just my point.
Right. Well, I think the urgency of it, first of all, culturally relevant education is not just for Black and brown kids; it's for white kids too.
That's
right.
Good.
And I'm a world history teacher. Every white kid that has walked through my classroom, I have directly addressed the Eurocentrism and let them know your society, your civilization, your ancestry is no better, and is in a lot of ways a little worse than everybody else's. when the Chinese and the Indians were building and achieving, this is what the Europeans were
doing. You didn't get any pushback from parents?
Not yet. I don't have that many white parents. I don't have that many white parents, and it's all about truth telling. When you ground your stuff in approved resources, there's not much a parent can say, right? And when it's truth telling, and when I think when you show every culture has value, it's not about bashing Europe as much as it's about highlighting and raising up the other societies, and that's important for the white kids because at the end of the day, these white kids are going to go on to be Supreme Court justices and CEOs and city councilmen and principals, and we need to empower them to, in those positions, be equity minded.
Right.
So when we just focus on our black and brown kids, we're producing more Trump supporters.
Right.
We're letting that happen.
So I got to pause. I don't know if you guys saw the president's speech a few days. I think it was Thursday. He was in Wisconsin, and he pretty much trashed the 1619 project. I mean, he tried to put it six feet under the ground, right? And then after that, he introduced the 1776 compromise, right? Or this committee that's going to be pushing forward this 1776 project. So what do y'all think about that?
Well, I think that we need to be realistic in the fact that, Aireane brought up a good point. And I'm definitely with her on parents, students, teachers, supporters have to first get on the same page with demanding that these school boards, implement Black studies courses, Latino or Hispanic history courses, right? That needs to happen. But we also know that these school boards are not diverse, right? So the next step to that is we need to demand that they ensure they're giving contracts to minority-led organizations such as the Center for Black Educators Development, Profound Gentlemen, Lead Right, that are led by us, and have people that have the degrees, that have the credentials, that can train teachers on how to actually teach these courses so that it's not just the Black teachers or the Latino teachers or the mixed teachers that are leading this work, because we need our counterparts buy-in this too, because they need to speak to it in a realistic way where we can all come together and make this jail. So I wanted to throw those points out in regards to what we can do to address how to reverse that mindset, because we need teachers trained to do the work, but we also need them to have a curriculum to do it.
Right. So I want to pop in here real fast. I know I'm talking a lot today, y'all. I'm sorry. But I just want to push back on that a little bit, because you had said, we want white teachers to be able to teach, about these things too. And while I 100% agree with you, there's just some white folks that will be horrible at teaching Black history.
And they need to get out of the classroom.
Some, but not all. But not all.
Right. And not even out of
the classroom.
Right. And not even,
or maybe most, but not all.
Yeah, well, definitely not all, because I definitely had a great. Well, he was a Black history professor, right? But he was a white.
It's this comment.
Hey, they going in on Trump.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
It just popped up, and I was like, "Oh man, it threw me off." Like,
this one right here.
Yeah. Listen, but real quick. But at the end of the day, where are we right now? The average white teacher in Gwinnett was most likely raised in Gwinnett or Hall County or Oconee, went to a UGA, came their ass right back to Gwinnett. So they have no experience with anything but homogenous communities.
Right.
I had a conversation with the teacher of the year, right? The teacher of the year at Peachtree Ridge High School who didn't know who Shirley Chisholm was. I had a conversation with a 7-year a teacher who's in her 7th year who didn't know what teaching tolerance is. These are the people teaching, and to use Dr. Love's language, spirit murdering our babies. Because when you leave out their history and you don't allow them to be reflected, who's not teaching about the first Black woman to run for president? And what violence are you then allowing to happen to your Black girls when they don't see something like that?
It's a part of the radical left.
Yeah.
Right.
So we changed that dynamic though with, again, the knowledge that we've been dropping, that parents get with the teachers, get with your students. When you want better, you demand better, you make it happen. These teachers that we know that are good, that are being pushed out, I'm challenging them, come together, build your own school, build your own program, where as we're fighting inside the system, parents have another option to say, listen, we are going to some teachers that can teach our children what they need to know, not just to be good workers for McDonald's or Walmart or Amazon, but to be entrepreneurs and whatever they set their minds to. So I just want to keep pushing that as well. We got to get in these school districts and demand this change.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, Neil, to your comment, I mean, around this curriculum that Trump talking about implementing in schools, like ain't that American history already? I'm just saying. So he ain't talking about nothing new. It's like, get your dumb ass out of here. That's why I'm listening to him, because he ain't got nothing original.
Right. It ain't nothing to, I can't even spin my wheels
His
with that.
stupidity
Like
is original, right?
and
Like
that was a good comment, Tanisha, that you made earlier about, not focusing on, the BS, right? Like roots rap, because we don't have time for that. And I think that in this year, what I have been challenging loved ones, fellow teachers, even my neighbors to do, is something that I'm doing, is focusing on the things that I have the ability to change while I have the time to do it. And, we can't get caught up in the foolishness of what our cousins and then what our counterparts are doing, because we got some cousins that's gonna act up and be foolish too, and we
Right.
still got an in-house deal with that, right?
Right.
But also we have to worry about what they may want to do this wrong, and a lot of more of that is going to happen, and so we got to stay focused on driving the solution. And I saw a good point to that is attending the school board meetings, and protecting these teachers and these students. Like Dr. Fuller told us, we got to protect our students and our teachers and our staff members that are fighting each day in these schools.
That's
and
good.
that's what. Oh, go ahead, Neil. I'm sorry.
I was going to say that. I mean, that's good. Parents need to. If there are parents out there listening, y'all have a lot of power. Y'all in charge. This is y'all's tax dollars, y'all property value. All you need is like 10 or 20 parents to roll up on a school board and get loud, and then the next thing you know, folks gonna get nervous and you'll start seeing those changes. You just gotta get together, put your marching shoes on, march into the school board meeting, and sign up to voice your opinion, because you have that right.
But look, real quick though, and I'm sorry, Anthony, jump in anytime, but I am the radical out of the three. I'm the super radical. So my thing is, and just the same as somebody said, Belinda said, I'll pull my child out. My child is in nobody's integrationist project. And so I'm the person that's saying snatch all the black kids out of school, right? Because racist people only respond when you hit their pockets.
That's it.
So if we get that people funding that these kids get when they show up to school, if they're not showing up to school, and the response to that is we've had our own education systems before as black people. And so just the same as these white people are building their own pods, or whoever's building their own pods, we can do the same thing. We got churches, we got nonprofit organizations, we got teachers in our communities. So we got parents at home stressed out every day trying to help their child with remote learning, when we can do a rotation cycle at somebody's community-based organization or in somebody's basement, where we got a group of kids, so they still getting that social interaction. They possibly have an educator to support. They possibly have a mental health specialist. We create our own pods in our own communities, and we hit their pockets at the same time. So we ain't got to go to the school board. We ain't got to go to the principal. We hit the bags. They go come to us. That's what I'm thinking. So,
and homeschooling is on the rise. So we've got to, that's a good point. Homeschooling is on the rise. I don't even have a pushback, but I do have a point. We have had HBCUs for a long time, and so we got to put our money in our HBCU. I mean, this is my vision. I don't even understand why it hasn't happened, because I always reference Baldwin. He's one of my favorites, just his literature, and then also Lorraine Hansberry. But I'll get on that in a whole other topic. But we can build our own systems, and that's what Tanisha is basically telling us. Like, let's build it. We have HBCUs already in place. We have independent schools. We have charter schools that are black led, but we need black owned, right? We have Montessori's. We have all types of schools that are happening. We can create our own pipeline, and these teachers that are leaving because they're being forced out for speaking up against these injustices, those are the people that you want teaching your child, because you know that they're willing to give it up to say, listen, I'm going to call it out, and I'm going to put forth a solution, and I'll be damned that if they don't listen to me, I'm going to keep saying it. And if they fire me, guess what? I'm going to still keep saying it until something happens. And if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be building it right in the midst of me demanding change. So, Tanisha made that point. Now we got to act on it. So that's the whole vision in another language, in another way, or another way of saying it, rather, not another language. But, like, let's make that happen. So there we go. Now, what's next?
I
How can we do
agree.
it?
I know that I don't have any kids right now, but I know as a public school teacher, I am not allowing my kids to go to public school, especially in the climate that is going on at this moment. I think that the United States is way behind when it comes to education. Way behind. And I think that is set up by design. And I'm talking about all stakeholders, white, black, Asian, all of us are targeted and made sure it's really that bottom 80% they want to keep us dumb. And people don't even really understand that. They're pitting us against each other due to race, socioeconomic status. And what we're not seeing is that the top 20%, really the top 1%, is watching us fight and claw for pennies. People don't understand this. You cannot talk about education without talking about the money. You cannot talk about socioeconomic status. We cannot talk about race if we're not talking about the privilege and the ones that have and the ones that have not. We have not. At the bottom, 80% does not share anything but 7% of the wealth. Okay.
Yeah.
And so we are slapping and snatching and grabbing and calling each other names, and we're black this, black bitch this, white you this. And really, they're laughing at us, including Trump, Biden. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry.
Yes.
At the end of the day, as a political science teacher, it is hard for me to tell people to go out and vote in this national election because it is hard for me to go out and vote as well. But I do, because I vote for the people that are on the local ballot as well as the state ballot. But at the end of the day, if we don't change it by design, this government was not made for us. This Constitution, I do not live for. And I won't say that, but just know that I don't tell my kids stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, because I ain't gonna say it on camera, but at the end of the day,
no receipts.
I'm gonna die black. Okay?
Yeah.
That's our main constituency.
You can't pledge allegiance to oppression, because that's basically what you're doing. Like I'm pledging my soul away every time I say this thing in class. I've never forced my students to say it. When my Muslim students wanted to sit down, you want me to sit with you? I said, I can hold your hand. But I'm not gonna force a child to say that, because my daddy empowered me as a kid. You say it if you feel like it, but you don't have to feel in your mind that I'm pledging allegiance to something that was never designed for me.
Right.
So no.
Because we don't even think about the words, like I pledge allegiance. Why would I pledge allegiance to a country that hasn't pledged allegiance to my life, to even respect my life as a black person? So when those words hit, it's like, I'm not pledging allegiance to that shit.
And we do it every day. It's very ritualistic and authoritarian, y'all. It's very let's just look at history. Let's just look at it. No, who else does that?
It starts there in the school.
Pledge allegiance.
Yeah, the schools start with discipline there. Oh, you don't want to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. You're defiant. They create a policy, right? So parents have to say, listen, they shouldn't have to stand. That should not be a requirement. If you want to stand, stand. If you don't, this is the problem. This is the problem in America. Everybody wants to be in control, whether you in the top tier, you in the bottom, you in the middle, you just floating around. Everybody wants to be in control of something. And that is an issue that we feel like we have to control people's mindset. We got to control what they wear. We got to control what they eat. We got to control who they want to be in love with. We got to control where they live, what they read. Like, let people, if this is freedom, let people be free. Hey, I ain't saying don't have regulations, but let people be actually free instead of telling them what they should think, live, and believe.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just full of goddamn jokes today. This is how you protest standing for the Pledge of Allegiance in virtual class.
Everybody.
That's good. No, that's real.
Everybody stand for the.
So hold on. So is that something that's actually happening in virtual classrooms? Like they're making the kids stand?
Oh yeah.
You think it's not happening in rural counties?
Yeah. Teachers asked for it to be put on our e-class pages for the video. How dare white people even have a word or an opinion about how we as black people show our patriotism? We are the bringers of justice and democracy in this country. What did the 1619 Project say? There would be no democracy without us. And you're telling me how I show my patriotism?
No economy without us.
Right.
Get the hell out
But
of here.
it's, Gwinnett, this is why this conversation is so powerful, in my opinion.
Ooh.
Gwinnett having a superintendent that has national influence. He is influencing other rural counties, not just in Georgia, but across the nation. Like, hey, look, if we getting away with it, why shouldn't y'all do it? Why shouldn't you force these kids to go back in the overcrowded classrooms? Why should you not pay the bus driver? So what if you don't have enough buses? Who cares? Why should you not have nurses in every school if you don't have enough nurses because there's a shortage? Who cares? Like, he is sending a message within the climate that we're in, and it's almost as if people feel like it's allowable, and
And
it's
what?
not. And so we have to empower these parents, teachers, residents in Gwinnett to get out. Now, I am going to talk very quickly about Tanisha and Karen, because one is a teacher, one is a parent. They're going to be on a town hall that Neo and I are hosting next Monday, featuring the voices of Black female educators and parents. And it's important that we change the system in Gwinnett, because if Gwinnett changes, then there is hope. There's a light that other people in other counties will say, wow, Gwinnett is changing. Well, it's in motion now. We got to start changing, because Gwinnett has been the beacon of light in education in Georgia for so long. So let's get these parents on the board. Let's get these teachers on the board. Let's make changes to the things that the teachers on here are saying is needed.
I don't know if y'all paying attention to the Facebook chat, but people are going off. Belinda's going off, and she's saying that a lot of melanin dominant parents rarely spend more than 1 or 2 years in the district. Can y'all talk about how problematic that is? Because that's like trauma. If you keep uprooting a child out of a system in which they maybe develop relationships, they've developed a routine, but that district doesn't serve the child educationally. So talk about how like devastating and traumatic that can be, and how parents can work in that system to prevent that, change it, or go somewhere else and develop a sustained educational career there.
Yeah, I mean this is true, and this is I wish we had some data to back this up, but we are surrounded by APS, Atlanta Public Schools, Fulton County Schools, DeKalb County Schools, which appear, of course, they've got their own issues, even with being majority Black districts with Black leadership. But parents and educators, Black educators, flock to those counties because they are taken care of a little bit more, and you don't have to worry about a white teacher calling your Black kid out of their name or over disciplining them. And even though it happens, it does happen. It does happen. You know that they're going to be taken care of a little bit more, right? You know those teachers are going to come with a little bit more of a equity mindset and a cultural background than in Gwinnett. So it's happening. It's happening, and that's on us. That's on the county.
So
I will say this.
Can I pop in real fast, because I just want to make sure I heard Anthony clearly. So you said that some parents are leaving Gwinnett County and moving to Blacker districts.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
Teachers, it happens all the time. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will also say and push back against, in the sense of this, parents moving every 1 to 2 years is also a direct cause of systemic racism at its best. White flight at its best, gentrification at its best. At the end of the day, as a Title I student, I know my parents wanted me to go to a good school, and so if it meant moving me out of district, because I was in Fulton, started off in Fulton and moved to Gwinnett around second grade, it wasn't about, my teachers maybe being racist. They just knew that Gwinnett County was that county for a great education. So we're going to take our Black child to this white county because the white county has to have the best education. That is the negative stereotype in a sense. Right. And we do not understand what we are subjecting our Black students to. At the end of the day, are we getting the lesser of both evils? If we put them in a Title I school, are we having these teachers teach them at a rigor that they deserve? Because all kids can learn. It's whether or not the teacher is going to push them to learn.
That's good.
And so you have these unqualified teachers at these Title I schools that are empathizing with the kid and giving them all this leeway, whereas you have at a predominantly white school, you have these teachers that are pushing these kids with rigor and then just letting them fall through the cracks with no empathy. So where is the silver lining for the Black child? I have yet to find that out. But that is one of the reasons why you have these Black students or these Black parents leaving or trying to find a Title I school within that white district to service their kids. You even see football players that have to leave these all white schools. They're all praised in the beginning until something happens and some teacher has called them some sort of name. And now all of a sudden they have to shift to another Black school. And so we are not servicing these kids. We are failing these kids as a state.
That's right.
And so that is the problem.
Yeah.
I don't have any type of solutions except for to fire these teachers that are not upholding their duty as an educator, as well as making sure that these Title I schools are very, very viable and that we actually have candidates that actually can teach. I can honestly attest myself that I was not certified when I came into a Title I school, but I worked hard as hell to get myself to where I needed to be because I love my kids, but you don't have teachers always doing that.
Y'all,
and that's unfortunate.
Please,
I'm sorry.
I'm like, I got 2 things. I had to write it down.
So just real quick, and then Jason, I'm gonna let you have it. And when you said, Aireane, when you said fire these teachers, now I'm not against unions, right? I'm against institutions that protect bad actors. And so is it realistic to expect, especially during this time when, honestly, a lot of unions are driven by power. They're driven by memberships. And so that's how a lot of bad teachers end up staying in classrooms. So is it realistic to say that those teachers will be gotten rid of when they're protected by, political organizations whose priority may not be that child's education, but that membership so they can maintain their power? So what other avenues can we take to get bad actors out of our classrooms?
I will still say that a union is necessary in the sense, but it has to be built with humility. I think that building this really from the ground up, and that's what we would have to do, especially in Georgia, in this red state, that we're looking to protect teachers that are actually hard workers rather than teachers that just want to get by. And I think that there has to be guidelines in place. If I foresee if I can see a great one, I guess in the future, it would be to basically look and make sure that you have equity-minded administrators that are actually coming and observing these teachers with equity and no bias of any, no implicit, no explicit bias, and really accurately depicting whether or not this teacher needs some personal development or it just does not care. And then at the end of the day, it comes down to the conversation. And this is real. You do have some white allies that can be there and to teach our kids, but really, can we have these white people and these other ethnicities really teach our Black students? Can they do it? And that's a question I have not answered yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of connects to what I wanted to go into in regards to. Go ahead, Neo.
You guys saw in the link I dropped the National Parents Union. That's the reason I put the shirt on the back it says National Parents Union. You do not have to be a parent to be a part of the National Parents Union, but I want to invite y'all and whoever is watching to click on the link because it's free to join. You don't have to pay to be a part of the National Parents Union, but parents need power, especially parents of color. Like we need to have power so we can be able to go in there. If the bad teacher is, in there tripping, they're not protected by a union, we can kick them out, right? Get them out of the school. They don't need to be there serving our kids. And then if we have a superintendent who is, racist in a sense and doesn't really believe in racial equity or doesn't even really understand how that works when it comes to educating society or Black and brown kids, parents, if they have enough power, they can push that person right out and make sure they don't get elected or get selected.
Cool, good deal. And I know they said plug on there. I saw that. I'm gonna do a plug too. Y'all know I've been doing public service announcements. But I wanted to address the teacher pipeline and where it starts. And this goes back to voting, guys. We have to get people out to vote in local elections because it's very important, especially school board elections. So this is the point that I want to drive. The teacher pipeline starts with the locally organized teacher preparation program through the state, which is Department of Education, and or the university system. Now, in my battle with the state of Georgia that helped with getting rid of the Ed TPA test and a lot of these programs that were just not culturally inclusive. They weren't really trying to, push forward teachers of color in the programs. And so I learned through that there is a connection of these places. And who's running these places? Not people that look like us. Quite frankly, in Georgia, it's ran by white men who are over the who are over the age of 60. So what does that tell you? They really are like, they don't value education. They're like, let my wife or my daughter go ahead and get this job so I can do whatever I want to do and not be bothered with them. They really don't want to deal with black women, and they're not checking for any male educators of color. That's why we're struggling, because they determine if they want to accept the application. They determine what type of resources you're going to get for the test that you have to take. They determine the workload. Like all of the teachers in Georgia right now that are suffering in these programs and trying to do hybrid learning and doing 2 or 3 lesson plans. The comment earlier about not even having any social time. So adding on to that, going through a teacher prep program that's already biased against you. So what do? We have to get out and vote. We have to hold them accountable. We have to call them out. Like we have to be in school board meetings demanding these changes. And I want to continue to drive that because that's the knowledge that we now know. And then we have to go to these local school boards and hold them accountable for change.
Yeah.
And so this if I can, because folks say we don't shout out or celebrate any wins from the county. We don't love our county, blah blah blah. This is a front that Gwinnett is actually doing pretty well on, changing the pipeline from being heavily from UGA to from Georgia State. And as graduates of Georgia State, we know that school, a lot of issues, still some progress to be made, but it's equity centric. And so they're now undergoing an audit by the Wallace Foundation to look at their teacher and their leader pipelines to make sure that they're attracting equity-minded candidates. Now, whether those candidates will be successful and supported is a different thing, but at least they'll be attracted. At least they'll be they can possibly get hired. So, kudos to you, Gwinnett.
Kudos, Gwinnett.
Kudos.
Let's keep driving that change.
So, y'all, we are. I think I don't know. I know I saw Belinda and Renee ask in the chat how do they get on. I don't know if y'all want to get on the show or if y'all want to get on National Parents Union. So let us know what resources you all need, and we'll definitely make sure that you guys get that information. But we are nearing the end of our time, so I know we've gone everywhere in this conversation, but as always, it's been dope. But I want to give everybody a chance to kind of share their final thoughts and solutions around how we support our students and our educators, specifically our educators, during this time of distance learning, and help their voices be heard.
And we did shout out El Mekki. We talked about the Center for Black Educators Development, and the work there, and asking parents to demand that their school districts connect with them on training their teachers. Yep, we did. We got you.
And check him out in the film Black Boys. He definitely
yes.
El Mekki is everywhere. El Mekki is a scholar, dope man. So check him out for sure.
Yes.
All right, y'all. Let's do our close of the session plugs. Our word of the day is plug. So what do y'all have in this conversation?
If y'all could just watch out for Gwinnett Educators for Equity and Justice, we got some big things coming up. We appreciate all the support. And this really what Aireane said earlier, this is going to be a statewide movement, but really a national movement, because educational reform all across the country is very much needed. And so we just appreciate the love. We appreciate being back in our home counties, fighting this good fight. And we appreciate this platform that you all are giving us to speak to your guests.
I will say this. Teachers, absolutely give your students empathy. Make sure that you are not proceeding with this year how you would if this was we were all in person. Students are going through a lot and we do not know. I also will urge parents, give your teachers and your children empathy as well as they proceed through this unprecedented time. This is not time to point fingers, but even practice empathy with your Black, your white, Hispanic, Latinx, Asian, all of your brethren you need to practice empathy with. This is a very, very strange time, and we have more in common than we think, regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of race, regardless of gender, regardless of religious affiliation. And so just practicing love and empathy is really the way to go. And really listen to what people have to say, because there is always a message behind everybody's ideology or message as well. So that's all I have to say.
I love that.
Great. So I guess I'll go ahead and go. As a former teacher and a former assistant principal, just looking at this opportunity that we have right now. Oh yeah, and as a political science graduate as well, just have to plug that in at y'all. The system is fragile.
Yep.
If there is going to be a time in American history where we have an overall revolution in education and get educational justice for Black children, because that's who I'm really concerned about, because we haven't gotten it yet. That time is now. Now is the time for reform. And I want to encourage all of the parents that are out there, the teachers who aren't afraid to lose their jobs, and the students who know what's right, to get together, get in groups, join these two young people, join us at Bright Beam, at Education Post, at the Black Wall Street Times, at Atlanta. Get on board and get involved. Now is the time. It's the Black Lives Movement of education. That starts now.
Yes.
Dopeness. Just in my closing words, as I'm giving my closing words, I just wanted to see if somebody could type in Atlanta to go across the comments for me. But speaking of Atlanta and the Black Wall Street Times, we do have two events that are coming up. One next Monday, that again will be featuring Black female educators and leaders. And it's going to be not just a traditional town hall. We're going to really be getting into solutions of what can be done and what they're actually currently doing to advocate for equity within our public schools. And then also on October 5th, which is kicking off Digital Inclusion Week, we're going to have some dynamic teachers on to talk about the digital divide, to provide some strategies for parents and even other educators who are struggling during this time of a balance. Having done this as a special education teacher, I know that public schools are struggling. They are failing our kids that have exceptionalities right now. So we'll really be getting into those strategies. So go to our Atlanta and the Black Wall Street Times page. And peace and love to everyone.
Yeah, I don't have a lot. Everybody, Neo, my homeboy, because we all, we have our work and we have our views, but for the most part, we on the same page and we say the same things. Like, this is the time for action. This is an era of Black liberation and Black empowerment. So take advantage of that and let's do it, y'all. And for the kids that are stuck in virtual classrooms, and when the teacher tells you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and you don't want to, this is what the fuck you do. And with that, y'all,
look at all this Black awesomeness though on our screens. I just wanted to shout that out, that everybody has on these dope sweatshirts, t-shirts, hoodies. Like, we ain't even planned this. It was just our own authentic Black loving ourselves. And so it's just so dope. I just wanted y'all to see that. Like, y'all see these sweatshirts and hoodies and these shirts.
It's my around the house sweatshirt. So I didn't get the memo.
There's one more plug I definitely want to throw out there. Like, so if a situation where a kid is getting snatched or getting, thrown out of a classroom again, please let one of the three of us know.
Yes.
So we can blast them.
Because we gonna come see about it.
Yeah, that is not acceptable at all. We're all connected to national media outlets across the country. And stuff like that is fire.
Yeah, we will definitely
they will
get working, y'all,
real quick whenever something like that happens.
And we don't just talk that good shit, that real shit. We actually out here doing the real work. So check out our pages, because I know somebody's going to say, oh, this is just a good conversation. Now, we drop that knowledge and some things you should do, but we also doing the work as well in the community. So check us out, and peace and love, everybody.
All right, y'all. We out. Check us out next Monday. Y'all be good.
Peace.